Welcome to the live stream. Today, we are going to be chatting about how to be valued at work. I just want to thank you for being here. If you haven't already, please feel free to download the workbook at servant.tools/be valued. You can use that workbook as we go through this process together, and so that you have a reference afterwards where you can compile all your notes. So, um, again, I'm just super excited to go through this with you together today. And one of the biggest things that we are going to chat about today is this problem of, well, really the invisible employee problem. So I want to chat with you today about that, what that means, and how to actually overcome that so you can be valued at work and make sure that you are fulfilling your purpose everywhere you are, not only at work, but what you're going to find out is that you're going to be able to apply everything that we talk about today, not only to your work, but to your personal life, to any relationship that you find yourself in, both personally and professionally. Awesome. So let's just dig in here and get right to it. So, as I shared, we're going to help you be valued at work today, and what we're going to do is we're going to focus on fulfilling your purpose, and I'm going to break down the lies in that, and also help you understand what the truth is behind your purpose so that you can get to the bottom of this and make sure that you are actually being recognized and valued at work the way that you need and want to be, and the way that your company needs and wants you to actually be as well. You know, a lot of times we just don't know how to communicate our value, and therefore others don't understand really the value that we bring to the table. So I'm going to give you some frameworks today that are going to help you pinpoint that language and that truth about you so that you can bring that to the table every time you show up. As I said, in any relationship, but specifically today at work. Awesome. So I want to start with this question. This is a question that all of us get asked, especially here in North America. What do you do? That is a question that all of us have been asked many, 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 many times. So how would you answer that question? If I were to say, hey, what do you do? How would you answer that question? Feel free to type your answer in the chat, and just so that we all know what you do, that would be great. What I want to do is I want to share a way with you that you can answer this question that's going to clearly articulate your value. But for now, how would you describe what you do? Just take a minute and write that down for yourself. I'm just going to grab some water. Wonderful. So now you got your answer. What do you do? And I'm sure that if you're like me and like everyone else, you have tried to hone that answer so that it actually makes sense and actually is engaging to those that you're talking to. One of the stats that I learned years ago now, I think it came out of Harvard, but it was this truth that we actually, as human beings, we actually only give each other 2 seconds to build trust with one another. 2 seconds. Um, if you're from Canada, maybe we give you 8 to 10 seconds, and maybe other countries do the same. But yeah, we tend to only give each other 2 seconds to start to build that trust. So that is what I want to help you understand today: is how can you actually answer this question in 2 seconds that's going to build that trust, at least start to build that trust, so that the person is interested, and you can actually position yourself in their life so that so that they can understand the value that you bring to the table. All right. Awesome. So just a bit of background: myself and my wife and the rest of our team that we've had over the years, we've been doing this for 19 years, helping people, families, organizations, and businesses and communities actually understand why they're here and teach them how to actually fulfill on their purpose, give them the tools that they need to be able to fulfill on their purpose every single day. So I wanted to start today with focusing on work, because this is where we spend the majority of our time. We spend a lot of time at work. We spend a lot of time thinking about work. We all need to work, for, a good amount of time in our life. So this is a place where we can easily be devalued, as you know, because if you're checking out this live stream, it's something that is common to us all, where we have been in a situation where we've just been devalued. And I want to give you the tools that you need to be able to shift that so you can be valued everywhere you want to be valued and everywhere that you need to be valued. So let's tackle this invisible employee problem. This is actually something, this is a new phrase that I heard just recently, but I think the problem's been around since we fell from the Garden of Eden. It's this place of just being ultimately undervalued and unrecognized. We've all felt that, right? We've all felt what it feels like to be undervalued in a relationship, especially at work. We've all felt what it is to be unrecognized. We'll do something that is actually brought significant value, but it just goes unrecognized. And also, we've been unappreciated. We've all been unappreciated in not only at work, but in any relationship that we've been in. So in that, we tend to feel invisible. And as we do, as that reality is basically, as we live into that reality of feeling more and more invisible, we just become disengaged. We disengage from work, we disengage from relationships, we disengage from life, and we tend to, come into ourselves to try to figure out what that is. And then we get into this mindset of, I have no value. So if you're there, or if you've been there, what I'm going to teach you today and what I'm going to share with you is going to help you get out of that so that you can re-engage in the right way. Because none of us want to re-engage to just be devalued and unrecognized and unappreciated again, right? So everything I'm going to give you is going to help you actually take the step in the right direction so that you can start to build momentum again and actually be in situations and position yourself in situations so that you know exactly where you are valued, and then you can step into those relationships, into those opportunities at work, and engage in those and start to change this reality of disengagement and feeling devalued and unappreciated. So here's some of the reasons. I just want to share some of the reasons that I came across and that I've recognized over the years of why people feel invisible and sort of the causes of this problem. So one is just really lack of recognition. That makes complete sense. As we are unrecognized, that could lead to, as I said, this place of feeling invisible and devalued. Second, those are value killers. If you've ever been micromanaged, I know that I have in jobs and certain contracts just been micromanaged, and it really takes an understanding of how to maneuver in that and how to not take that personally, because that's really not your issue. Most of the time it's the other person just not really understanding how to give over that autonomy to you so that you can actually soar and thrive and do the job that you've been hired to do. It really comes down to trust, and how do you build that trust? Well, I want to share with you what I found over the years in terms of fulfilling your purpose and being valued to build that trust every step you take, every engagement you take at work. Then unrealistic expectations. Again, that's a killer to value. If you don't know what's expected of you, it's really hard to measure that and know the steps to take in order to meet that expectation, and also be able to know if it's realistic or not based on the job that you have and the workload you have and the resources available to you at work. Next, bad leadership. That's just so it goes without saying. If you're under bad leadership, then you're definitely going to be devalued, because bad leaders, they don't recognize the value of their teams. It's all about them. It's not about really stepping in to serve. So actually, I should share a bit about that. One of the realizations that was a huge transformation, a huge revelation for me and for us here as a company, is this idea that leadership and servanthood are two different things. I'm going to put out this boldly. You actually don't need to lead. You need to serve. You need to serve your team. You need to serve your company. You need to serve your clients and your customers. It's about service. It's not about leadership. If you are serving, leadership is a natural result of that, because you're actually going to help someone get from point A to point B and get an answer met in their life, a need met in their life that we're going to chat about today. that is significant to them, that is an act of service, not an act of leadership. If you're standing in this place of, what we would call as a leader, I want you to look at your team and look at them and serve them. How can you serve them? That's your job. That's your job. If you have any sort of authority on your team and at work, is to serve those that are coming to you for help. So in that, just a challenge to move away from this label of leader to a label of servant and see how that changes your life, changes the dynamic at work. So we're going to talk about that. Going to dig into that today as well. Also, fear of making mistakes. If you don't have a place where you can actually make a mistake and recover and learn from it, that's just going to kill your value. That's going to kill the value of the team. It's going to kill the culture. It's going to become toxic because then you're just doing things to not make mistakes. And the reality is sometimes that's where the sweet stuff comes from, is from the mistakes that we make. I've often heard musicians, say that the song is found in that wrong chord or that wrong note that you play, and it leads you in this whole other direction that you never would have gone in before as you're creating music and making music. I used to be a professional actor, and in that we would make mistakes all the time. And those are some of the most amazing moments in films and theater and all that, where one of the actors forgets their lines or whatever, and they just start making stuff up, and it can create this amazing experience and this amazing human moment when we don't beat ourselves up for our mistakes, but we actually use them to engage in an area where we actually never have before. So mistakes are a beautiful thing. There's obviously consequences to mistakes, but if you have the right environment around you, that support one another, mistakes can be amazing blessings. So those are some of the things that I've noticed, that others have noticed over the years, that cause this invisible employee problem. So the next piece is that I've noticed is that because of this, companies are incredibly scared. The company that you work for is scared. And here's why: because 79% of employees are disengaged. This comes from Gallup, and this is over years. I've been following this statistic for years. 79% of employees are disengaged. It varies. Some countries are like even higher than this, but Canada, US, disengaged. 79% of employees are disengaged. That's a huge problem. Companies are scared, and it's because of this, because of what I just laid out for you, of why we disengage, that they know. Here, I just want to share some things that I've seen over the years. They know that decreases productivity, and that's bad for business, right? If productivity goes down, it's bad for business. Increased turnover. We've seen that a lot, especially in my lifetime, just more and more of an increase in turnover. People are staying at jobs less and less than they used to. Then, my parents, they stayed at a job for years and years and years, sometimes decades. But, our generations and the next generations aren't doing that. There's this real risk of increased turnover. How do you actually maintain good employees? Those that are actually engaged. How do you do that? I'm going to show you how to do that today. Also, reduced morale. The culture just becomes toxic, and nobody wants to engage in it because they're not being recognized. They're not being appreciated for what they do, for what they bring to the table. And I want to break that down because that's actually part of the problem. There's an increase in absenteeism and presenteeism. Absenteeism is obviously where, people aren't showing up for work. They need more sick days, more mental health days. Presenteeism is actually even worse, I think, in that the person's actually there, but they're just not present. We've all done that. We've all been there. We've all, looked at the screen or, whatever we're looking at for way too long to try to just, figure out what are we supposed to be doing? What's expected of us? Do we even care at the end of the day? We've all been there. That's just a natural part of figuring out your way in work and figuring out how to, find the right work. So the last thing is really all of this damages the reputation, not only of the company, but of you, because you're associated with that company. So this is a real problem, because as that reputation of the company goes down, you're at risk too. And, the team's at risk, livelihoods are at risk. because the income reduces and trust reduces within the marketplace. So this is a real issue, the invisible employee problem, as we're calling it now. But as I said, this has been around. This has been around for as long as I know, because people have been devalued for a very, very long time in their work. One of the key things here is that what I've noticed is that the problem is the current solution. And that's what I want to write today, because what companies are doing is, in light of this, they're implementing recognition programs, right? They're trying to improve communication. They're empowering their employees by, giving them to be able to do their jobs. They're also promoting a positive work environment, in that they're trying to create this culture of respect and support and appreciation and encouragement. And then lastly, they're doing regular check-ins, with a direct reports or a mentor. But here's the problem. Here's the problem that I've seen, is that they are just focused on the wrong area. And that wrong area simply comes out of this lie that I want to share with you right now, which is, we've all been taught this incredible lie that has infiltrated everything that we do when it comes to being valued. And that lie is that your value comes from what you do. That's a lie. Your value doesn't come from what you do. So just let that sink in for a minute. Your value does not come from what you do. Your value comes from why you're here. So there's a significant difference between why you're here and what you do. And that's what I want to break down today, so that we can solve this problem together. This idea that your value comes from what you do actually places your purpose in what you do. And that is the biggest lie that we have been taught, and many of us have fallen for. Your purpose is not what you do. Okay? Your purpose is not what you do. Your purpose is why you're here. Your purpose is why you're here. Your purpose is a why, not a what. And your value actually comes from your purpose. Your value comes from why you're here, not what you do. Here's something key in this. As we uncover why you're here and give you the framework to be able to put language to that, so you can clearly describe why you're here, what you're going to be able to see as soon as you define that is that you're going to be able to look at everything that you do and see, is that helping you fulfill your purpose or not? Because what you do has to be aligned with why you're here, or you're definitely going to be devalued. That goes for you, for your family, for your company, for your community, and our countries. If what we're doing is not aligned with why we're here, we have a huge problem. We're out of integrity, and we're spinning our wheels. We're wasting resources. We are burning out our people. You are being burnt out at work simply because either what you are doing is not aligned to why you're here, or what the company is doing is not aligned to why they're here. I can honestly say it's probably a combination of both, because we have personal responsibility in that, and the company has responsibility in that, to know and to be able to communicate why they're there, so that everything that you do as a company, everything that you do as an individual within the company can actually be measured and aligned to make sure that every step you take is fulfilling your purpose. And that will never burn you out. That brings life, that brings meaning, that brings hope, that brings energy and passion. That's what it's intended to do. So if you're not feeling that, if you're feeling invisible, it's because that's out of alignment. It's really that simple. So that's what we're going to get to as we go through this, as I give you these frameworks that are going to help you do that. Next, why should I listen to you? Why should leadership, why should management, why should colleagues listen to you? Well, typically how we answer that and how we come to that is because of all that I've done. Look what I've done. I have credibility. I have authority in this space. That's all based on what? Just as I said, it can't be based on what. What is a demonstration, is a reflection of ultimately why you're here. And we know it. We know if what somebody is doing is actually fulfilling on their purpose, even though we don't have a language for it most of the time. We know when somebody's out of integrity. We may not know how to describe it as I shared, but we do know when someone's out of integrity. And where they're out of integrity is what they're doing does not align with why they're here. So we stop listening to them. We stop listening because on some level, they're just out of integrity and we can't trust them. Are they lying to us? Are they compromised? Are they going to cause me to compromise? All of those things come into play simply because we're not aligned to why we're here. As soon as you are, people will start to listen to you. Okay, because you'll know exactly how to communicate and the value that you bring, and then you'll start to drive those opportunities. You'll start to step into those opportunities as they arise, and it'll make sense to people because the fruit will be there. The fruit of your labor will be there because you'll actually be fulfilling your purpose and gain momentum and gain energy and passion and drive to continue to do that. Next, how many needs do you meet in a day? How many needs would you say that you meet in a day? So just go ahead. You can put it in the chat if you like. How many needs do you think you meet? 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 100? How many needs are you trying to meet in a day? All right, awesome. Here's the lie that so many of us have been taught that we must meet many needs for people. There's many people in our lives that have many, many needs. And we have been taught along the over the years that we have to meet all those needs, or at least do our best in trying to meet those needs. But all we do in that is we can't answer all those needs. It's a lie. We can't. And we automatically put ourselves in a position where we begin to devalue ourselves. And if we devalue ourselves, others will devalue us. That's sort of the kicker. The truth is you meet one need. You meet one need that shows up in many different ways. I'm going to help you find out and clarify what that one need is. And as you understand what that need is, then you'll start to see that is the same need that shows up in all these people that I'm trying to help, be it personally or professionally. You meet one need. It's the same need everywhere you go. You don't have to divide between, why you're here and where you don't have to divide it between personal and professional, because it doesn't divide between personal and professional. It's the same need everywhere you go because you are the same person everywhere you go. You play different roles. You have different, positions and things that you do in life. There's different opportunities that you take on. It's the same need in all those areas. Okay. So you meet one need that shows up in many different ways because people are different and they demonstrate this need differently because we're different. So I want to share that with you and help you understand exactly how to pinpoint that, whatever that need is. Awesome. Next, how would you describe yourself? How would you describe yourself in 2 to 3 words? So I'd say, I'm creative, I'm resourceful, I have an ability to teach. How would you describe yourself? How would you describe yourself? Awesome. Feel free to write that in the chat if you like. And so that we have that there, and it'd be cool to see how each of us actually define ourselves or describe ourselves with 2 to 3 words. If we're only given 2 to 3 words to be able to do that, or 2 to 3 things, how would you describe yourself? Wonderful. Next, everything that you just shared about yourself is a label, and we wrongfully define ourselves by our labels. We wrongfully define ourselves. We have these labels that we use about ourselves or others use about us, and we make that our identity. That becomes our identity. And that's where we start to devalue ourselves, because who you are is because of why you're here, not what you are or what you do. So how you describe yourself, labels are simply just things that we use to explain something about us. Like I have a beard, I have a blonde hair, I'm 52 years old. Those are just labels that explain something about me. But who I am, my identity, and the value that I bring as who I am actually is because of why I'm here. Same for you. And as we uncover why you're here, you're going to be able to measure not only what you do, but you're also going to be able to hold yourself up to that and go, who do I need to be? Who have I been being? And is that actually helping me fulfill my purpose or not? And in that, you start to shed the things that you just don't need to be anymore. You can shed the things that aren't working, because we all pick up labels. We all pick up, ways of being, ways of doing things that we think are going to help us actually achieve what we want in life, or achieve what has been placed on our plate at work. But the truth is, if it's not actually helping you fulfill your purpose, if who you're being isn't actually helping you fulfill your purpose, it's never going to work. You're going to continue to be in this place of being devalued, especially at work. Awesome. So let's solve the invisible employee problem together. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clarify your purpose. Okay. I'm going to give you a simple framework, 3-step framework that you can use to clarify your purpose. Next, we are going to pinpoint the problem that you actually answer and solve as you fulfill on your purpose. Okay. That is incredibly valuable. If you know the problem that you're here to solve, and the purpose that you use to fulfill on that and answer that problem and be able to communicate that, incredibly valuable. And it allows you to position yourself so that you can step into the right opportunities and not step into, distractions, things that you think you should be doing or things that others think you should be doing. But what are the actually right opportunities for you to step into at work? Next, and lastly, I'm going to give you a framework that's going to help you understand how you can uncover where your actual opportunities are so you can avoid the distractions, as I should, because nobody wants to be in a distraction, because that ultimately leads to the invisible employee problem and this 79% of us being disengaged at work. Awesome. There's an enemy in this. Yeah, I need you to know this. There's an enemy that is going to try to come against you in understanding and getting these answers to the questions that I'm about to ask you. And that's doubt. Doubt is the enemy. Doubt wants to get in your way and make sure that you don't get the right answers that are in you to have. Okay. So if you feel doubt, just push it aside. Uncertainty is different than doubt. You can be uncertain, but doubt, there's no good that comes from doubt. Do not give doubt the benefit. Okay. Do not give doubt the benefit here. Just push doubt aside, step into where you're uncertain. And the answer, I promise you the answer is there as you dig for it. Okay. So in that, doubt's going to come against you. And this is how doubt shows up. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are that you want to be valued at work? Who do you think you are? Just sit down. That's how doubt talks to us, right? That's the voice of doubt. And the problem is that if we spend too much time in there, we actually try to counter doubt with the exact same question. Doubt will say, who do you think you are? And we will say, well, who do you think you are? As soon as we respond that way, we step into this place of arrogance. And no one wants to be around someone that's arrogant. That is a completely devaluing act. Okay, so put doubt aside. Step into uncertainty. Leave arrogance at the door and step in with me. So everything that we're going to go through today is from what we call the purpose framework. So everything I'm going to teach you today is from this purpose framework. And as I'm going to share later, if you want to go deeper in this, because I obviously only have time to touch on these key points, but if you want to go deeper into it, I'm going to give you access to be able to engage in that and come along for the journey and actually understand. Now that you understand why you're here, how do I actually fulfill on that everywhere I go, including at work? Awesome. So let's step in and clarify your purpose. Why do you want to be valued at work? Why do you want to be valued at work? I know it's a very simple question, but this helps you be honest with yourself and accountable to yourself to why you want to answer these next questions and do this work. So why do you want to be valued at work? Just write down your answer. Take a bit of time, just take 30 seconds or a minute, because it's usually right there. Why do you want to be valued at work? And whatever your answer is, it's totally fine. Awesome. Next, let's dig right in. So as I shared, there's one need that you meet in the lives of those that you serve every single day, from personally or professionally. Okay. So this is going to be everywhere you are. So as you step into this, what need do you recognize in others? That's the question we want to answer. What need do you recognize in others? And the key is we want to answer that in a word. So you want to get your answer down to a word. So what's going to happen is a bunch of words are going to start to come to your mind. Just start to write them down and don't edit what those are. What need do you recognize in others in a word? It's going to be things like purpose, vision, compassion, understanding, wisdom, truth, joy, protection. What need do you recognize in them in a word? If a phrase comes, just simplify that phrase. So as an example, the need that I recognize in everyone that I have ever encountered is a need for purpose. So along the way, I came, I stumbled across, people need a clear sense of purpose. So I took that phrase and brought it down to a word, which is purpose. So a phrase may come, just simplify that down to a word. You may start out with a whole story and just, talk yourself through that story. What do you recognize in others? And eventually, as you dig down, you'll come to that one word that sums up the need that you recognize in everyone that you interact with on a daily basis, both personally and professionally. Be the same need. Okay, so imagine that pen or pencil that you have, or the keyboard that you're using to type as you follow along. Imagine that's a shovel, and you're just going to dig down through those words, through those phrases, through those ideas until you come to the one word that solidifies the need that you recognize in everyone that you encounter. So, what need do you recognize in others in a word? Once you pinpoint that, then the next question is to look at, well, what do you bring to answer that need? And the key is, same exercise, you want to answer it in one word. So at work, you're not talking about your products and your services and the role that you play. You're not talking about those what's. Okay, what we're talking about is, what do you bring to help answer that need in a word? It's going to be things like truth and trust and compassion and understanding and companionship, or trust. What do you bring to answer that need that you recognize in them? So here's my example, and I'll give you our example here at Servant Development. Everywhere I go, as I said, I recognize a need for purpose. And what I bring to answer that need is revelation. All these questions and everything that I do has to bring revelation, or it's not going to help you actually get your need for purpose met. Okay, us here at Servant Development, we recognize a need for transformation. And what we bring is wisdom, all the wisdom that we've gained over the years to help you actually get the transformation that you need to ultimately fulfill your purpose and serve where you're being called to serve. Purpose, revelation, transformation, wisdom. What is that for you? What is the need that you recognize in a word? And what do you bring in a word to help answer that need? Okay, same exercise, dig down. Just here's sort of a word picture for you to help you understand how this works. Imagine yourself stepping into a room where there's a bunch of people. For some of you, that may be terrifying. For some of you, that may be exhilarating, depending if you're introverted or extroverted. But imagine you're in a room, you look across that room and you see somebody that has that need that you recognize. You walk over to them and you bring them what to help answer that need in a word? What is that? What do you bring them to help answer that need? It's really that simple. Okay. Next, after you've answered that, then what we want to do is we actually want to answer this question. Why are you here? And we are going to use the two words, the need and the answer, to actually come up with your answer to why you're here. Okay. Why you're here. So I'm going to give you the framework. If you need some help, please feel free to reach out to us. That's why we're here. We want to make sure that these answers are right, because I don't want you to be in a situation where, you think you have the right words, but as you go along, you start out close, but as you go along, you start to move further and further away of actually why you're here, simply because this language just doesn't hit. But the truth is, it's in you to find. You just have to dig until you know, yes, this is the need, and this is what I bring to help answer that need that I see. And you're going to see it at work. You're going to see the need. Doesn't mean that you've always been successful in bringing what it is you bring to help answer that need, or that people actually receive that from you, because that's another conversation that we'll get to in a bit. But you can assess and go, yeah, that's the need that I recognize everywhere. And this is actually what I bring to help answer that need. So those two words, as you work through this and help answer this and start to answer this question of why you're here, why are you here? This is designed to actually reveal if these words are right. So purpose and revelation, is that actually right? As I brought those words together, because those two words help you understand how to come up and uncover what your purpose statement actually is. So purpose and revelation, I help reveal your purpose. That's why I'm here. That's what I've been doing with you for, the last 43 minutes, is helping you reveal your purpose, helping to reveal your purpose with these questions. So here's what we want. We want a 3 to 7 word statement. And the reason being is what I said before, that what I call the 2-second rule. We only give each other 2 seconds. I help reveal your purpose is 2 seconds. So 3 to 7 words is roughly 2 seconds in terms of, being able to communicate why someone should listen to you and the value that you bring to the table and what you can actually promise on delivering. That's the other key. Okay, so 3 to 7 words. And you want to start that statement, in this case, with I. Your company or you as a family, they or you need to start the statement with we, because there's more than you involved in that process. So start the statement with I. So then you have, 2 to 6 other words that you can use to actually clarify why you're here. So again, transformation plus wisdom. When we brought that together, we simply transform you. It's just 3 simple words. We transform you. That's why we're here. So the key is finding the right verb. So you can use one of those 2 words, the need or the answer, as the verb potentially. So I'll give you another example. My wife, Shelly, who I introduced to you at the beginning at the beginning of this live stream, Shelly, she sees a need for joy, and she brings protection to help answer that need for joy. So as she worked through this, her answer of why she's here, she uncovered, she's here to protect your joy. She protects your joy. So in that, protection became the verb protect. Transformation became the verb transform. Revelation became the verb of reveal. Make sense? So one of those words could be in the answer. And you want to make sure that at least one, possibly both of those words is going to be in your answer somewhere. So definitely one. So one or both of those words are going to be in your answer. You don't necessarily need both if you don't need both. But one or both of those words is going to end up in your answer, and one could be the verb. Secondly, you want to take out words like by, to, through, or with, because that is another step. That actually communicates how you actually go about fulfilling on your purpose, or where you're actually helping others get to by fulfilling that purpose. That's another step. What we want to do is we want to bring this down to its simplest form, so that in the heat of the moment, you can actually remember, why am I here? And these are the steps that I need to take in order to fulfill on this purpose, and be able to communicate that to others in a very simple way, because complex just gets lost. People stop listening. Next, you want to use a version of you instead of people or others. And here's why: because it makes it personal to the people or person that you're talking to. I help reveal your purpose instead of I help reveal people's purpose. If I say people's purpose, that gives you an out to back away and not actually have to engage in that statement that I just shared. My wife helps protect your joy, not people's joy or others' joy. It gives the person an out, where when you use language like you, it's very personal to the person you're talking to, and it helps you be very present and very, in the moment with that person as you're sharing that. When somebody says, hey, what do you do? I help reveal your purpose. I can be in that moment with them. And in that moment, they're going to tell me whether they're interested in that or not. My wife, help protect your joy. If you don't think you have that need, or you don't want help with that need, you're not going to engage in that conversation. That helps out, because then you're not going to step into a situation where you're going to be devalued, trying to convince somebody that you have value and that you can help them. That never goes well, right? Awesome. So why are you here? Why are you here? That's where we want to get to. Wonderful. Seems to be that my slides are not working as they should. So let me try this again. Well, that's going to be a problem. So I'll just talk you through it. And maybe in the replay, I'll be able to actually get this to work. Okay, so next point. Here's 3 questions, 2 questions that you can ask yourself to determine if your answers are actually confirmed. So first question is this: when you are on your game, doing what you know that you are supposed to be doing, does the 3 to 7 word statement that you just came up with sum up what you're supposed to be doing when you're on your game? Yes or no? Okay, I help reveal your purpose. That sums up exactly when I'm on my game, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Even when tech screws up, does that actually sum up why I'm here? Yes, is the answer. Next question is, well, does that actually answer the need? Does you fulfilling on that purpose actually answer the need that you recognize in others? As I help reveal your purpose, does it actually answer your need for purpose? Absolutely. Does we transforming you actually meet your need for transformation where you need it? Absolutely. So it's a bit of a rhetorical question, but if the answer is no to that question, just circle back. If the answer is no to any of those 2 questions, just circle back. It just means that it's not as finely tuned as it needs to be. It's not the words are either not right or they're not in the right order. So just, that purpose statement, does it actually sum up what you're supposed to be doing when you're on your game? And 2, does it actually answer the need that you're here to meet? Wonderful. Next, I want to share this with you that no 2 purposes have ever been the same. We've worked with thousands of people, families, companies, communities, and a few communities. And in that, no 2 have ever been the same. No 2 purposes have ever been the same. Each of us are uniquely and wonderfully made, says the Bible. We are uniquely and wonderfully made. Your purpose is unique to you. Now, there may be others that answer, that recognize the same need, but how you actually go about meeting that need and the specifics of it are very unique to you. Okay, so don't doubt it. If you want to share your statement and we can, help confirm with, the database that we have, happy to do that. Just share your purpose. You can put it in the chat if you figure that out already. And just trust that if you know that is the need and it's accurate, and everywhere you go, that's the word that sums up the need. And that's the word that sums up what you bring to answer that need. And as you bring those 2 words together, this is the 3 to 7 word statement that clearly defines why you're here. And it answers those 2 questions. Just trust. Just trust. Because if it's not it, you'll know it. You'll know it. There will be friction. It just won't be simple. It'll be so complex. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It will be hard. But everything in life is hard. Fulfilling your purpose is actually a reason to do the work. And so you're willing to do that hard work, but it's so simple. Okay, so as you'll see, and it's bold. It's going to be a bold statement. I help reveal your purpose. That's a bold statement. We transform you. That's a bold statement. I protect your joy. That's a bold statement. Your statement is going to be bold, and it's going to call you into being whoever you need to be in order to fulfill on that purpose. And, I'm a believer, I believe in God. He wouldn't give us a purpose and not give us everything that we need to be able to fulfill on it. That would just be cruel. He's not cruel. And even as human beings, we wouldn't ask somebody to do a job and then not give them what they need to do it. And there are companies that do that. We all have experience of that. And that may be what you're stepping into now. And it's not right, but simply it's not right because they don't know this stuff. They don't have the ability to measure what they're doing because they simply haven't defined why they're here. Guaranteed. Same with us. There's wrong things that we do as people, but once we understand why we're here, then we can gauge those things and start to course correct more and more and more and gain momentum in that and start to lose doing things wrongly and harming other people simply because we just didn't know why we're here. Sometimes we step in with good intentions and do the very wrong thing. And that's why that happens, is because we weren't aligned with why we're here. Okay, so no two are the same. Just remember that. No two are the same. So why are you here? Awesome. Remember, the doubt is the enemy. Don't forget it. Doubt is the enemy. Wonderful. Next step, what I want to do with you quickly as we start to wrap this up is I want to actually help you understand how you can pinpoint the problem that you're here to solve, that in fulfilling your purpose, you're actually solving a very specific problem. I just want to see if these slides are coming back. No, they're not. Okay. So here's how we pinpoint that problem. If you download the workbook at servant.Tool/BeValued, if you haven't done that yet, you'll see how to do this. You'll see there's this question there of what is the counterfeit of the need that you recognize? What is the counterfeit of the need you recognize? So take a look at the need. And what is the thing that people go for instead of going to do the work to get that need answered? They go for this other thing. Okay, so I'll give you my example. Purpose is the need. The counterfeit are reasons. We have the ability as human beings to make up reasons to do anything. The only reason to do anything is to fulfill your purpose. That's the problem, is that we create all these reasons and we justify our actions. And that actually ends up causing us to compromise who we are, compromise what we're doing, and end up being devalued because what we did not align to why we're here. We made up a reason to do that thing. Reasons are the problem to purpose. Purpose is the reason to do anything. Okay, so there will be something. So here's another example. For us, the counterfeit of transformation is creating an identity. We already have an identity that is found, as I shared. Who you are is because of why you're here. That's your identity. You'll start to understand who you are as you understand why you're here. But the problem is that we have all fallen victim to creating an identity, creating someone that we want to be or think that we should be or think that we could be. And that is the problem, because that leads us ultimately to being devalued, because we can never fulfill on that. We can never become that person because we were never meant to be. And as we become more and more of who we think we should be, we walk away farther and farther from fulfilling our purpose, and we are out of integrity, and therefore we become devalued. So what is the counterfeit to the need that you recognize? It's going to be the thing that people go after instead of doing the work to get that need answered. Okay? Try to get it down to a word or a very simple phrase as like reasons, identity, creating an identity, making up reasons. That's what you're looking for. Lastly, I want to share with you how to actually uncover your opportunities. Okay, it's really, really simple. Really simple. And it's found in the definition of an opportunity. An opportunity is everywhere that you are both needed and wanted. An opportunity is everywhere that you're both needed and wanted. So there's people in your life that need you, but they don't want you. There's people at work that need you, but don't want you. You may be even in a job where the company needs you, but doesn't want you. Likewise, there's people that want you, but don't need you. Maybe you're experiencing that at work. You're wanted, but not needed. Or you're needed, but not wanted. That's a moment for pause. In all of those situations, we have to step in and compromise who we are, even if it's good and great. Because good isn't great, and great isn't right, but right is always good and great. I'm going to say that again. Good isn't great, great isn't right, but right is always good and great. If you're standing in right, you are needed and wanted, and you are uncompromised. You can be who you are. fulfilling on your purpose. So if that's happening at work, look for the opportunities. Look for where you're actually needed and wanted and where you don't have to compromise, and step into that opportunity to fulfill your purpose and answer the need that you recognize that they have. Because if they want help with that, bam, you're valued. If they don't want help with that, that doesn't change your value. It just means you're not needed or wanted yet. But if you step into that, you're going to devalue yourself. It doesn't change your value, but others will see you as devaluing yourself because you're compromising on your value because you're stepping into a situation where someone doesn't need and want your help. It's really that simple. Okay. Be where you're needed and wanted, uncompromised on who you are. Okay. And again, you may be identifying as a certain thing or identifying in a certain way that is out of integrity to yourself. So once you clarify your purpose, you're going to be able to measure yourself against that and go, am I being who I need to be in the situation where I'm needed and wanted? Or am I compromising? Am I bringing in a label that doesn't need to be there to try to prove that I have value when you don't even need it? You just need to help answer that need where they need and want help. Okay? Really that simple. Wonderful. So we have one purpose. We have many opportunities because there's good, great, and right opportunities. And we have very specific callings. When I say callings, I mean the places where you're being called into the right opportunity. So the challenge there is to start to analyze, are the opportunities you're stepping into good, great, or right? And the challenge is to start to let go of the good and great and step into the right. Okay? It's hard, but it's very, very simple. As you start to do that, you're going to see that the perception of your value is going to be received more and more and more because you're actually going to be doing the very thing that you need to be doing to help answer that need and fulfilling on your purpose. It's really that simple. Wonderful. Okay. So here's one of the things I want to leave you with, that in order to step into this, to fulfill your purpose, you actually have to step out of your of your identity. You don't want to step out of your integrity. You want to stay in your integrity, and you want to lay your identity down so that you can actually analyze it. If you're willing to do that, transformation will always be available for you. Okay. So as I shared at the beginning, these are some of the core pieces of the purpose framework. What the purpose framework actually helps you do is not only clarify your purpose, but align everything you're doing, as you've seen that we've started to do even today. Align everything you're doing to fulfill on that purpose so that you can actually step out and serve from that purpose and be valued for your contribution and serve everywhere that you're being called to. That's what the purpose framework gives you. It has 8 modules. The first is to clarify your purpose. The next is to really discern the vision, because without vision, we perish. Everyone that you are stepping in to serve needs to understand, if I allow you to help me get this need answered, where is that going to bring me to? That's a promise. As you are fulfilling on your purpose, you're promising you're going to get to this place. Next is there's a dream that's attached to that. You need to help them understand, what is the dream that's going to be realized? That's the gift that comes when that need gets answered in their life. So we got why, we got where, and we got, what is the gift that I get out of doing this work, so that gives me motivation to step in and actually want to answer the need, because it's hard work. It's hard to get that need answered, as you know. Once you understand the need, you're going to recognize, yeah, this isn't easy stuff, but it is really simple. There's a gift, and that gift isn't a future state. It's right now in the present. It continues to build on itself. So the gift in terms of you, allowing me and allowing us to help reveal your purpose and what it takes to fulfill on that, is that you get to be valued for your contribution at the end of that. That's the gift. And you get to serve everywhere you're being called to serve. That's the gift. Okay. So that we uncover that in the purpose framework specifically for you. Then determining what the mission is. The mission is how do you actually go about fulfilling your purpose? How do you go about fulfilling your purpose? There's a standard and a very custom process that you continue to employ and deploy to help people move through where they're stuck to actually getting that need met. There's a 3 steps that you take that help you do that. So we define that in that step. Then your battle. This is a battle. Everyone's in a battle to get those needs met. You need to know the battle that you're stepping into and the battle that others are in, so that you can help them walk out of that. In that, help you uncover and understand what that battle plan is. How do you actually help somebody in that to move them from A to B, and for you to actually fulfill your purpose, where you're actually called to go, and what ultimately is getting in your way, so you can let go of those things. Then who are you really? Confirming who you are and in your identity. Now that we've gone through all of those steps, who are you and who do you need to be able to fulfill in your purpose? And then lastly, how do you serve from that? Giving you tools to be able to understand, how do I now step in to serve in my purpose? And in that, get more clarity on your purpose as it deepens. So that's the other thing. Your purpose doesn't change. Once you understand why you're here, it doesn't change. It's why you're here for life. It's why you're here on this planet. Okay? Which is different than what you do. What you do is going to change. And the opportunities that you have is going to change, because what you do changes simply based on the opportunities, but why you're there in all of those is the exact same thing. That never changes. So that's something to note. And then lastly, what I want to do is I want to share with you where you can actually find the purpose framework and what that all entails. So if you go to servant.tools, I'm not sure that this is going to work. Nope. Let's try that. Yep. Servant.tools right there. So if you go to servant.tools, you'll see the servant community. So if there's a button there, you'll be able to click on get access. So that will take you to the servant community. Servant community is our online platform, our on-demand courses, where we do, everything, all the frameworks that we have currently online are there on demand for you. We also do live events. We do live workshops, live master classes, and there's exclusive content for the members. That's $275 Canadian for the year. Annually, it renews every of the need. 8 to 10 people in a